Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining our very first online session for the Malaysian Rocket CanSat Competition 2025. We will start our first online class with 1 kilometer rocket design Mechanical Engineering UiTM. Without further ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Hussein to share on today's topic. Dr. Hussein.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thanks everybody to spend your time to join this session. This is a very crucial session, especially if you have an intention to join the MRC 2025 Malaysia Rocket Competition. Okay. So before that, can I confirm that you can see my shared screen?
Yes, can.
Is it in presentation mode or not? It's not in presentation mode, right? So I will. Okay, now can you see the full screen?
Still not in presentation mode. This is in the review mode.
Okay. I will swap the presenter mode. Okay, now?
And now it's okay.
Okay, all right. Thanks. All right. So basically, for today's session, there are 6 learning agendas. Okay, we will start with the design overview. Okay, what are the input and output parameters, and also the design verification. This is very crucial. And then followed by the rocket components. I will introduce to you what are the main components in the rocket motor and rocket body, and as well as the supporting components. And then we will continue with aerodynamics of the rocket, which includes the pressure distribution, the center of pressure, and so on. Okay, this is very important for you to get the knowledge as you are going to further in the analysis later on. Agenda number 4 is static stability. Okay. Agenda 5 is static margin. So these two agendas are interrelated. And finally, we will end the session with other systems in the rocket, for example, the ignition systems and also the propellant grain distribution. Right. So the first one is design overview. Okay. But before we go to the design process, we have to first understand the phases of the model rocket. Okay. So the model rocket will start with the ignition. Okay. So we will push the button and ignite the propellant. So as the propellant is burned, it will produce thrust and the rocket will lift off. Okay, so during this phase, the rocket will experience significant acceleration and also velocity. And until the propellant has been completely burned, okay, so we call that phase is engine burnout. But during engine burnout, okay, the rocket will still fly upward due to the momentum. And then the third phase is coasting, okay, and until the rocket has reached its apogee. So we have some mechanisms to eject the parachute. Okay, so there's the fourth phase, the apogee and ejection. And finally, once the parachute has been deployed, so the rocket is into recovery mode now. Okay, so if you look on the right plot, okay, so we have 3 variables there. Okay, we're going to discuss the first one, the altitude, the blue line. Okay, so during the lift off, the ignition and lift off, okay, initially at time 0, okay, okay, so at time 0, so the rocket will experience thrust, okay, pushing the rocket upward. So the altitude, so we focus on altitude. So altitude will increase, okay, will increase until it reaches the maximum altitude. We call it apogee, okay, and then the rocket will tilt and move downward to the earth again, okay, and the altitude will drops until it reach the ground at 0 altitude. Okay, in terms of acceleration, vertical acceleration, the yellow line. So as I mentioned earlier, during the lift off, okay, the rocket will experience a significant acceleration. Okay, significant acceleration. So the rocket will increase its acceleration until almost all of the propellant has been burned out, but not yet. Okay, like for example, maybe around 80%. So when the propellant has burned out to 80%, what happened? The thrust produced will reduce. Okay, and at this point, the peak where the thrust produced is less than the weight of the rocket. So when the thrust produced is less than the weight of the rocket, then the rocket will experience deceleration. Okay, deceleration until it all the propellant has been burned out at this point. Okay, so you have a negative acceleration, so deceleration. Okay, and in terms of velocity, okay, so velocity. So during the positive acceleration, the rocket velocity will also gain. Okay, it will increase the velocity until it reaches a point where the propellant is almost burned out. Okay, the velocity will start to decrease, but it's still a positive velocity, but it start to decrease. Okay, start to decrease until it reaches the apogee. So at the apogee, you see here, the velocity has become zero, which means the rocket is now tilting at this point. So the velocity is zero here. Okay, and then the velocity becomes negative, which means it's going downward. Negative velocity means it's going downward lah, downward. Okay, while the acceleration here, you see, is almost constant, but it's not a constant lah. Okay, but when the rocket reach its terminal velocity, then basically the acceleration will become zero lah when it's hit the ground. Okay, so this is very important for you to be able to understand this plot, because during the competition, before the flight, each team has to present and pitch lah, basically. Okay, your rocket performance, why you design such a way. Okay, the fin is maybe slightly canted, for example. Okay, right. So these are the overview of the design process lah of the rocket. Okay, we start off with the input parameters. So there are a lot of input parameters, grain formulation, composition weight ratio, maximum chamber pressure, and so on. Okay, so basically for this particular competition, we are going to provide the engine, the motor. We call it motor. So it's not of your concern about these parameters, but just for your knowledge. So before we start off any design of the motor, first we have to have a very clear mission requirement. What are the mission requirement? What are the target apogee and so on? And then from there, we have to decide the grain formulation. So when we talk about chemical rocket, okay, we have broadly classified into three categories, which are the liquid rocket, solid propellant rocket, and also hybrid rocket. So in our case, we are going to focus on the solid propellant rocket lah. And we have a few options of formulation, uh, but we choose the one that first consideration is the cost, of course. Second consideration is the safety, and the third one is, of course, the first is the safety lah, and then the cost and the availability of the raw material. Okay, and we do a lot of R&D to find the best composition weight ratio for our application and so on. And then from this, we also do mathematical prediction of the initial thrust time curve, the initial specific impulse, and also altitude goal. The one is colored orange here. Okay, so these are our initial performance lah. Okay, and then once we have these input parameters, okay, we then do the analysis and we get these output parameters from our analysis. Okay, so at this point, we have not yet construct our rocket. It's just mathematical analysis. So we have specific impulse, thrust coefficient, and so on, drag coefficient, lift of mass. So later I will discuss about this in greater details. Now we can use software to predict all these parameters. But now at this point, so you see here, we have a thrust time curve. So we have initial and we have the output. So this is input and this is now output. And then also delivered specific impulse. So we have initial specific impulse and also the altitude goal, also known as apogee. So once we have these output parameters, so we have to compare this with our initial prediction. If it is close to our initial prediction, then that is fine. We can proceed to the next step. Otherwise, we have to refine our design. This is where during the design process is very iterative. It's not a one-way process. Okay. So once you are happy with your theoretical performance, then only you go to the detailed design. This is where each team has the flexibility. okay, to design your own nose cone, fin, and body. So the one I highlighted in the green is where you have the flexibility to design lah. But other than that, okay, is given lah. The telemetry, it depends on which category you are going to enter. Okay, but the recovery mode is most likely is provided by us and also the nozzle lah. Okay, but the telemetry system, it depends. Okay, if you are in category 1, category 2, and so on. So I will focus this talk today is on these two components, the nose cone and the fin. Okay, so please bear in mind, these are the two things that you have the flexibility lah to modify. And then once you have designed this, okay, you can 3D print your nose cone and fin, or you can use RP, up to you. The body part, you can use hand lay up if you choose to use composite fiber, okay, or you can use machining. It's up to you. So we don't restrict this, okay. So it's up to the creativity of each group. And then after we finish the fabrication process, then you can do several testing. Later, I will discuss this also about what kind of test can you do after you finish your rocket. So you can do a static stability test to see the mass distribution and also the center of pressure. You can predict the drag coefficient, okay? And this is a flight test. Of course, you will not do this at your university or your school, okay? But you can later get this data, okay? If you do a static test lah. Okay, and during the competition, you can get the apogee. Okay, so the arrow I show here is like the iterative process lah. Okay, it's not it's not always one way process. It's not a one direction process. So sometimes you have to go back. You have to go back to the drawing board. Okay, and even if you are at this point, also you can go back to the blueprint. Okay, so that's about the design process lah in engineering. Okay. So next, I will introduce you with the terms that you are going to be familiar with when you read a lot about rocket technology and so on. So first is total impulse. Okay. So usually when engineer develop a new engine, basically they will static test the motor or the engine lah. Okay. So during the static test, they will measure the thrust, how much force is produced by the rocket engine. Okay, and then plotted against time. So this is a typical thrust time curve. Okay, and the area under the curve, okay, which given by this equation is what we call the total impulse. Okay, and the rocket size is classified based on the total impulse produced. So on the right table, okay, these are the rocket classification. So we have various classification based on the total impulse, either in Newton seconds or in pound seconds. And based on this classification, they group them into different types. Okay, for example, in the first classification, 1.8A is a micro rocket lah, micro rocket. Okay, and then this is a low power rocket. We have mid power and we have high power level 1, high power level 2, and so on. In our lab, okay, just a bit of sharing of experience. We have developed few rocket engines. Okay, the smallest one that we have as of now is class D lah. We call it class D. Okay, this is for 100-meter rocket motor. But the one that we are going to use in our competition is this class I, R1km. Okay, 1 km means 1 kilometer apogee. So we are going to use a KNSB propellant formulation. So since we are in Malaysia, we are not bound to any acts or regulation yet. But if you are in US, for example, you are required to have this certification produced by National Association of Rocketry. Okay, if you want to build or fly this high power rocket, okay, so you have to have this certification, and this certification is regulated by the National Fire Protection Association, code 1127. Okay, so that is why we are not giving you the opportunity to build your own engine, because this is considered high power lah. So you need experience to produce this motor. Okay. So now we're going to the specific impulse. So what's the difference between the total impulse and specific impulse? So specific impulse is basically a measure of how efficient the rocket engine can create thrust. Okay, so if you look at the plot here, okay, so the higher the specific impulse means the higher the efficiency of the energy conversion of the motor. So based on this plot, we can say that the turbofan engine, which is the engine used for our commercial aircraft, is the most efficient one. Okay, it can have a specific impulse to more than 7,000-8,000 seconds. However, if you notice, the rocket motor is the least efficient relative to other engines. So we have turbofan up with afterburner, we have ramjet, scramjet. So the rocket is the least efficient. So then the question is, why do we use rocket engine to send our satellites? The reason is mainly because two reasons. One is because the rocket motor can reach a higher Mach number in terms of the flight velocity. And as we know, we need to reach a certain amount of speed in order to pass through the Earth atmosphere. We call it escape velocity. It's a tremendous velocity which can only be achieved by rocket engine. The second reason is because of the rocket is considered as a non-air breathing engine. Other than rocket is considered as air breathing engine. Air breathing engine means that the combustion process, as we know, requires three things: the fuel, oxygen, and also heat. So in turbofan engine, for example, the engine carries the fuel with them. And the heat comes from the ignition. But where is the oxygen comes from? From the air. So the air is taken from the atmosphere. So that's why it is called air breathing engine. While for rocket, we know at the outer space is a vacuum, no oxygen. So how did the rocket can maintain its combustion, chemical reaction? Because the rocket, the propellant itself consists of oxygen. The propellant formulation, they are the fuel. We have fuel and also oxygen within the formulation. So that is why rocket engine is the only one that can bring satellite to the outer space. In terms of the history of the development of the propellant, we see from the 1940s and before that. So we have black powder, but as times move on, so the advancement in the chemical formulation of the propellant. So we can see that the trend of increasing delivered specific impulse. So this is a very, very, very high energy material. So, but in terms of availability of the raw material, is very restricted. So we have experience in developing this kind of propellant, but it's very limited and it's very expensive. So we don't go for this kind of high specific impulse propellant. Right. So the escape velocity, as I mentioned, is around 11.2 kilometer per second, or around 40,300 kilometer per hour. So that is the speed required by the spacecraft in order to go through the Earth atmosphere. All right. So coming to the second agenda, the rocket components. Basically, there are a few basic components for the rocket to work. They are, of course, the casing. And within the casing, we have the grain. We call it grain. So the grain is the fuel, the propellant. We call it grain. And then we have the nozzle. And also ignition charge. The seal here is mainly to seal because within the chamber, the pressure is very high. So we don't want any high pressure gas to escape. So that's why we have seal. So this is the basic component. But we have added other components as well. For example, fins. So here you see the fins. So why do we add fins to the rocket body? Because to add the stability. So later in the next section, I will discuss about the stability. We also add a nose cone here. Because to reduce the drag. Later we'll discuss this further. And then we also add parachute inside the body. For the recovery. And also we have the launch lug here. To guide the rocket during the lift off. So as when the rocket is within the launch rail. In terms of dimensional requirements, so we will advise you later. So you have to follow us, and we will provide what are the body diameter and the length of the body. And each team has to follow this strictly. Otherwise, we are afraid that we cannot fit the nozzle, or we cannot fit the motor later on if you don't follow this dimensional requirements strictly. But we will advise you on the requirement later on. So far, any question before I proceed Okay, if you have any question, please do interrupt me anytime. Okay, whether in the chat box or you can turn on your mic and ask a question. No problem. Please interrupt me. Okay, I will touch a bit on the concept generation using OpenRocket, but I will not go into the details of the OpenRocket because will be covered in the next module lah. Okay, not by me. Okay, so I will just touch a bit lah. Okay, but mainly I will focus on the concept generation. How can the OpenRocket help us in generating the concept of our rocket lah. Okay, so if you and by the way, OpenRocket is a free software. Okay, so open source, so you can download it. You can use it for free, no problem. Okay, so once you download it, you double click and it will appear like this. So what we have here is a design tree. Design tree is where you can add your body parts of the rocket. Okay, and then you have this model view. So once you add the body parts in the model view, it will you will see that the parts is added lah. Okay, so your rocket will grow lah. Okay, and then here is the stability. So later I will discuss in further detail. Okay, about this, and also quick sim. Okay, quick sim is the advantage of this software that it will update the performance of the rocket. For example, the apogee, the maximum velocity, maximum acceleration, as you add the components. It's a real time, okay, on the fly update. So that is the advantage of the OpenRocket. So for example, if I change the shape of the nose cone, okay, definitely the drag will change. So once the drag is changed, the apogee will change. So you can see immediately once you change the shape of the nose cone, you can see how it will affect the apogee. But this quick sim is only for a rough estimation lah. Okay. Later you have to do a flight simulation here. Okay, later. Okay, but this is only for rough estimation. Right. Once you've completed the design of your rocket, okay, ataupun concept generation, then you can do simulation. Okay, once you've done the simulation, so these are the typical results you can get from the OpenRocket software: the vertical velocity, vertical acceleration, aerodynamic coefficients, stability, components mass, and so on. So all of this I will discuss later. Okay, in greater detail. Okay, this is just an overview. Don't worry. Okay. And OpenRocket also gives us the flight trajectory. For example, you have a side wind. So how this side wind ataupun crosswind will affect your flight trajectory, okay, and also stability lah. Okay, now coming to the aerodynamics part. Okay, so before we talk about aerodynamics, first we have to understand what are the forces acting on the rocket. So if the rocket is flying in a vertical direction, basically there are three types of forces acting on the rocket. The first one is the thrust. So the thrust is produced by the rocket engine, rocket motor. So it will push the rocket upward. Okay. In the downward direction, we have two forces. One is the gravitational force. Okay, is pulling the rocket down, and also we have drag due to the air resistance, drag force. Okay, so this is a very simple one. However, okay, when the rocket is flying at an angle, slightly tilted, so we have two additional components. Okay, so for example, we have a crosswind coming from the right to left. Okay, so this crosswind will induce a tilting motion, which will result in additional force, a lift force. Okay, lift force. So when we have this lift force, it will definitely modify the rocket trajectory. So our aim is here, how can we recover the rocket trajectory? Means if the wind pushes the rocket in the positive angle direction, how can we recover the rocket so that it will fly straight again upward? So that is the purpose of studying the rocket stability. Okay. But before that, okay, I will touch more on the drag lah. Okay, drag, because in the OpenRocket, they will give you different kind of drag. So we have to understand what are the differences between each drag. So basically, we have start off from the below. We have skin friction drag and form drag. These are the two most common considered drag in the aerodynamics. Okay, skin friction drag is basically drag due to the friction between the solid surface and also the air. Okay, this is unavoidable. You cannot avoid this, but what you can do is you can minimize it. How do you minimize this drag? Later I will share. Pressure drag is also a drag that is commonly experienced by typically a bluff body lah. But if you have a very aerodynamic shape, okay, so you profile the nose cone and so on, so you can even eliminate this pressure drag lah. Okay, but the worst is you can minimize it lah. Okay, so these two is considered as a profile drag, and we have another type of drag is interference drag. Okay, but usually we ignore this in our analysis because of its very minimum. So interference drag is basically a drag caused by uh, the the joints, for example, between the fins and body. Okay, you put like a glue or you weld, so this will resulted in interference drag lah. Okay, and the total between the interference drag and profile drag is what we call parasite drag. Okay, wave drag is a drag where experience when the body is flying at a supersonic speed. So when the body is flying at a supersonic speed, so there will be a shock wave. So this shock wave will induce drag. So we call it wave drag lah. So this is usually we don't also consider this as our rocket is flying at typically less than supersonic punya regime. Induced drag, okay, for a long high aspect ratio wing, we can usually ignore this, but since rocket has fins with low aspect ratio, so this induced drag can be significant as well, so we cannot also ignore this. Okay, so basically, but the most common drag that we are going to focus is on the skin friction drag and also pressure drag lah. Okay, so this is the drag analysis in Open Rocket. So once you have built your rocket, okay, so Open Rocket will give you this data. Okay, so here is the components. So the good thing about Open Rocket is it will give you the drag for each component. It's not a drag for the whole rocket, but for each component you have nose cone. So you have body tube, okay, control, and then you have body tube and body tube. So why there are three body tubes? Because sometimes you design the rocket to the body tube is allowed to be detached lah. Okay, so in this case we have three body tubes. Okay, and then we have fins. Okay, so and then these are the different drag. So we have pressure drag, you have a base drag, friction drag, and the total drag. Okay, if we consider the parts only, okay, we look at the total drag. So which component of the rocket contribute to the most drag? Okay, so actually it's a body tubes, body 1, 2, and 3. If you add up, the body tube is 10% here, and then 12%, and 44% is altogether is 65%. So 65% of the drag is come from the body tube. Another 26% from the fins and 9% is from other parts. So body is a major contributor of the drag. And then in terms of the type of drag, okay, if you look at the body tube, okay, pressure drag is 0 because body tube is considered, there is no flow separation within the body tube. So there's no pressure drag, no base drag, and it mostly comes from the friction. Same goes with the body tube too, also mostly come from the friction. And then this is the at the aft of the body tube. Of course, there are the base drags, these two, okay, 23%, but another 20% comes from the friction drag. So we can say that most of the friction is coming from the friction drag. So 64% friction drag. So the question is, how can we minimize this friction drag? Okay, one of the way is to make sure the surface of your rocket is smooth. Okay, because the way we can minimize the friction drag is by reducing the roughness of the surface. So the best way is to paint your rocket. As you apply paint, so the surface will become smooth. So when your surface is smooth, then the drag will be minimized. Okay. Another contribution of drag is coming from the fin. Okay, fin also contribute 26%. So one of the way you can reduce the drag of the fin is by using airfoils for the fin. Now this is a recommendation. So, and the study has conducted this analysis, and they showed that, okay, if you have unfinished, this is the total drag of around 0.9. Drag coefficient is basically CD is a drag coefficient. So drag coefficient is defined by the drag force divided by this quantity lah. Okay, S is for area. This is the dynamic pressure. Okay, so it's a coefficient lah, basically 0.9. But if you paint your rocket, so the drag reduced from 0.9 to about 0.75. And if you polish it, it will reduce further a bit. And if you modify your fins to use airfoil, so you see here the yellow one, the fins will reduce significantly. Now your drag is around 0.5. So why do we want to reduce the drag? Because the lower the drag is, the higher the apogee, the higher the rocket can fly. Okay, for a given motor lah. All right. Now, in terms of fin, we put our attention to fin. Okay, so the drag of the fin depends on many factors. One of them is the shape of the fin. Okay, so we have various shapes. We have swept, tapered swept, clip delta, trapezoidal, elliptical, and many more. Okay, but from this study, okay, they consider 5 fins, and they say which fin geometry that affects the drag most. Okay, so we have span, or sometimes we call it semi-span. The thickness of the fin. Okay, the tip chord. The tip chord is this one, C tip. Okay, C root is the root chord. This one, the root chord. Okay, the thickness. Okay, and so on. So basically, from this study, they concluded that the span of the fin plays the most important role in determining the apogee of the rocket. Okay, the apogee. So from another study, okay, it shows that the higher the span of the semi-span of the fin, means the longer the span, the fin, the higher the drag. The higher the drag lah. Okay, this is the relation. So as an engineer, okay, when you want to design your fin, okay, in terms of stability, the larger the fin, the higher the stability. But the larger the fin, the higher the drag as well. So there's always a competition between stability and also drag. So you have to decide, you have to find the sweet spot between the drag and stability. You don't want your rocket to be unstable, but at the same time, you don't want the rocket to be very stable. So later I will discuss about weathercocking. Okay, when your rocket is too stable, it's not good as well. Okay, so this is your role, okay, as an engineer. So these are the things that you will pitch lah during the pitching. Okay, the first day of the competition. Why do we design this fin in such a way? Dia punya semi-span is this long, this length, and so on. Okay. Nose cone. Okay, the nose cone also will significantly affect the drag in terms of the shape, in terms of the size, and so on. Okay, so we look at the shape first. So nose cone shape, of course, we rarely see a nose cone with a blunt shape like this, but this is just for the sake of showing. Okay, so when you have a blunt surface like this, you have 100% drag lah. This is we compare this relative to the blunt surface. So you have a blunt cone. Okay, the drag reduced by almost 50%. Okay, you have a cone shape, reduce further. So now the drag is only about 20% of the blunt. Hemisphere is even lower, and parabola is the best. In this case, the parabola shape is considered as the best. This is, we are not considering any other term variable yet. Okay, this is just shape factor. But other than shape, okay, we know that the drag will also depends on the flight speed, okay, the Mach number. So at low speed, okay, at the very low speed, less than 0.8, we see that the shape of the nose cone is almost negligible in terms of the drag coefficient. However, as the rocket is flying at higher speed in the transonic regime, okay, we see here the nose cone shape has an effect to the drag coefficient. And beyond Mach 1, okay, we see here the parabola is no longer the best option. Okay, in this case, we see the lowest one is the red one, the half power. This is considered the most efficient nose cone for high speed rocket. So the point I'm telling here is that when you design your rocket, don't only consider the shape, but also consider the flight speed of your rocket lah. Okay, it will definitely change the characteristics. Okay. So we have seen the how the nose cone shape affects and the speed, but okay, now let's say we have agreed that okay, we want to use, let's say, half power. Okay, but how long will be the nose cone be? Okay, the shape is the same, but the aspect ratio lah, we call it fineness ratio, L/D. So L is the length of the nose cone, and D is the body diameter lah. So D is a fixed, but L might be different. So you have to decide how long your nose cone will be. Okay, but from this study we can see that okay, the higher the fineness ratio means the longer the nose cone will be. So for conical, okay, we see at any flight velocity, the longest nose cone is always produce the least drag coefficient. Same goes with the half power. Okay, so of course, based on these plots, logically we want to design our nose cone to be as long as possible because it will reduce the drag. But remember, there's another competition which is mass. So the longer the nose cone is, the higher the mass of the nose cone. So the higher the mass means the heavier the rocket, and the heavier the rocket means the lower the apogee. So there's always competition. So you have to find a sweet spot between the mass of the nose cone as well as the drag reduction. Okay, and then also there's a competition between mass and also stability. Okay, later we'll discuss about how will the mass of the nose cone affects the stability of the rocket. Okay. Okay, so now coming to the static stability. Okay, so before that, I think there's a video. I hope I can play. This is an example of unstable rocket flight lah. Okay, and it's another example. Okay, so we of course we want to avoid such a trajectory. Okay. Okay, so if you remember, okay, when I discussed about the open rocket, okay, on the top right corner, okay, there's a stability section here. Okay, so basically what it gives you is the value of stability in caliber and also the center of gravity and center of pressure. Okay, so what is this stability? So this stability basically defined by this formula. So Cp is the center of pressure, COM is our center of mass lah, ataupun center of gravity is the same. So the center of pressure minus center of mass divided by D. So D is the diameter of the rocket body. So this gives you this value. So if the stability is 1.35 means that the distance between the CG and CP is 1.35 times of the body diameter. So that's what it means. Okay. As a rule of thumb, we want the stability, the static margin to be greater than 1. Okay, so usually we will target between 1.5 to 2. If the stability greater than 2, we consider it's too stable. Too stable. So we don't want our rocket to be too stable or unstable. Okay, so 1 to 2 is a good value. 1 to 2. Okay, the static margin. So the static margin depends on the fin size, the fin shape, the mass distribution, the nose cone mass, and so on. Okay. So what happened? Okay. So why do we need the center or the static margin to be greater than 1? So this is when you have a vertical flight direction. So you have usually we'll design center of pressure to be at the tail, closer to the tail, while center of mass is closer to the nose cone. Okay. So when the rocket is tilted at an angle, okay, so this center of pressure will act as a restoring torque if the center of pressure is located below the center of gravity. So it will recover the flight path to the vertical direction. However, in the opposite manner, if the center of pressure located at the top of the center of gravity, okay, so what happened when the rocket is tilted in the positive angle direction, the rocket will destabilize because of this destabilizing torque, okay, of the CP. So the lift is in that direction. Okay, so the rocket will experience an unstable flight trajectory. Okay, so this is a crucial requirement that during the competition, our secretariat will make sure that your rocket is stable. You have to prove that your rocket is stable in order to fly. Otherwise, it will cause a threat lah. Okay, it's in terms of safety. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we want our rocket to be stable, but not too stable. Okay, but what does too stable means? Okay, when the model rocket is too stable, it means it will weathercock into the wind. Weathercocks mean if the wind is coming, let's say the wind is coming into this direction from left to right, the rocket will go into the wind. It will move to the left. That's what weathercock means. Okay, so let's say the wind is come from this direction, the rocket will fly into the wind. Okay, so that's weathercock. But however, weathercocking is acceptable if your apogee point is within the 20-degree cone. This is a rule of thumb. Okay, 20-degree cone. So if your flight apogee point, this apogee point located within this 20-degree cone, so this weathercocking is acceptable. However, if your rocket is too stable, so the wind is come from left to right, and your apogee point located beyond the 20-degree cone, then we consider this not acceptable. So before you launch your rocket, you have to do a simulation of your flight trajectory and see whether your apogee point located within this cone or outside this cone. If it is outside, then you have to modify your design. So you have to make the rocket less stable. Okay, less stable. How do you make the rocket less stable? Okay, means you go back to this equation. So let's say your static margin is more than 2. So how can you reduce it? You can reduce it by reducing the value of CP. How do you reduce the value of CP? You can reduce the size of your fin. Maybe your fin is too big. If your fin is too big, the rocket become too stable. You can reduce the size of the fin, or you can reduce the mass. You can reduce the center of mass by reducing the mass at the top section at the nose cone, or you can increase the mass at the tail section if you want to reduce the stability. If you want to increase the stability, so it's the other way around lah. Okay, if you want to increase the stability, you increase the fin size or you increase the mass at the top of your rocket motor. Rocket body. Okay. So this is one way, okay, to measure the stability. But another option, if you want to increase the stability of your rocket, is by spinning your rocket. This is another approach. Okay. So you can also consider this to increase the stability of your rocket by inducing spinning motion. Okay, but by using fin canting, you cant the fin, okay, at a certain angle. Okay, but the question is how much cant angle. Is it on one fin, or should you cant all fins? Okay, and what will it do to the altitude? So all this information you can simulate in OpenRocket. Okay, for example, if you have a cant angle, okay, so the blue one is without the canting the fin, and the green one when you cant the fin. So you see here, the rocket can sustain the altitude even at a higher crosswind speed. So for example, for blue one, at 10 meter per second of meter per hour of wind speed, the rocket has already experienced a cartwheel, means it's unstable. But when you cant the fin, the rocket can sustain its stability beyond 10 meter per hour wind speed. So it's more stable lah. This is very critical, especially when you launch your rocket during the windy day. Okay. And then in terms of the angle, how much you want to cant, okay, if you cant it by 1 degree, it doesn't significantly affect the apogee of the rocket. If you cant it to 2 degree, you see, now the altitude will decrease. The altitude will decrease. Okay, of course the stability will increase, but at the expense of drag. So when you can your fin, it will increase the spin motion, which increase the stability. However, it will reduce the apogee because of the drag increment. Okay, of course, when you can the fin, it will increase the drag. So this is where you have to optimize your design. Okay, do you want to increase the stability at the expense of drag, or do you want to sacrifice drag for the stability? Okay, so that's what makes each team different in terms of in terms of their design. Okay. So when you induce spin to your rocket engine, okay, it will also affect other things. For example, the burning rate, the burn time, and also the pressure, operating chamber pressure. So basically, when you spin your motor, the performance will increase. So it will affect the thrust time curve. So if you, let's say, if this is a 0 RPM means no spinning, so the thrust time curve will be looks like this. Okay, but as you start to spin your rocket, okay, the thrust time will looks like progressive lah. It's a more progressive trend. Okay, so of course the burn time will reduce from around 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds if you spin it at 910 RPM. Okay, but the maximum thrust will increase significantly lah. So the rocket will accelerate faster. Okay. Okay, static margin. Okay, this is very important. Okay, because in this section, I will discuss on how can you do your own experiment to see whether your rocket is stable or not. Okay. So how do you determine the center of gravity? Okay, by placing a wire and you balance the rocket. So at the point where the rocket is balanced is the center of gravity. So as simple as that. Okay. So during flight, it is impossible for the rocket to rotate about the tail or about the nose cone. So the rocket will always rotate about the center of gravity. Okay. So you can do this simple experiment once you finish assembling your rocket. So you can vary the location of this wire, okay, until the rocket is balanced. If, for example, like this, okay, it's unbalanced, nose tip down, you can shift the wire to the nose cone. Or if it is tip down, okay, tail tip down, then you can shift the wire to the tail until you reach this stable position. So that point is the center of gravity. So you record that point. Okay, but remember this is for only for temporary center of gravity because as the rocket is flying, it will burns the propellant. So the tail section will become lighter as the rocket flies. So the center of gravity will shift to the nose cone actually. Okay, as the chemical is being burned, okay, so the nose cone will become relatively heavier. So the center of gravity will shift upward now. So when the center of gravity shift upwards, mean the rocket will become more stable. Okay. So that's where weather cooking can happen. Okay, during the flight. So please consider that as well. Center of pressure is a bit more difficult to determine. It's not like center of gravity, it's very easy. So there are various approaches to determine the center of pressure. Okay, for example, we have mathematical approach, CFD. So if you have access to CFD, you can use computational fluid dynamics. Okay. Otherwise, the easiest one is to use open rocket. Open rocket, basically behind the open rocket is Barrowman equation. So it's a good prediction, but however, it tends to overpredict the stability. So please bear in mind, the Barrowman equation tends to overpredict the stability. We can use simplified equation. Later, I will share you how to do this calculation, but this is the least accurate lah. Okay. Or you have mechanical approach. You can use wind tunnel. This is a very good approach if you have the access to the facility lah. Otherwise, okay, it's not possible. And the easier way is to use cutout method. Okay, this is a less complicated method, and each of team can use this method and verify with the open rocket punya data. So I will discuss about this two approach, the simplified calculation and also the cutout method. Okay. But before that, okay, I just want to compare the results from the Barrowman prediction, and also the CFD data. Okay, so what the diamond shape plot represent the open rocket, the CFD data. Okay, sorry, the Barrowman equation, and the open foam is the CFD data. Okay, so you can see here for various fin height. Okay, the open rocket tends to predict a larger center of pressure. Okay, center of pressure compared to the open foam. Okay, so this leads to a more stable rocket. Same goes with the sweep length. Okay, sweep length. At any sweep length, the open rocket tends to predict higher CP compared to open foam. Okay, so we can conclude that the open rocket tends to over predict the stability. Okay, not only that, okay, the advantage of CFD is also gives us the distribution of pressure. Okay, for example, in this plot, the distribution of Mach number, density, and so on. Of course, if you have access to the CFD, please do the analysis. Otherwise, okay, you can use another approach, okay, which is the simplified calculation. Okay, so this is a very simple approach. Okay, you calculate the cross section area of each part component, the nose cone, the body, and fins. Okay, so there are only three components considered here. So you calculate the area. Okay, so AN for the nose cone area, B for the body, and F for the fin. Okay, so once you have the area, you times the area of each component with the distance from the reference line. Okay, so for example, this is your reference line. So you take the average distance, the nose cone is here. So what is the distance from the reference line? So this is DN. Okay, for body is the center is around here. So this is DB. Here DB, and fin is around here, DF. So you times all of this and you add, this equals to the center of pressure times the total area. You add up. So total area here is the area of the nose cone plus the area of body plus the area of fins. So you add all these areas. So now you can solve for CP. So CP is the summation of this divide by A. Okay. Okay. So you sum up of this and then divide by A. So that gives you CP. So then you can compare your CP here with the predicted by the open rocket. Okay, and see whether there's a significant difference between the two. Okay, but this is the least accurate approach lah. Of course, this is a crude estimation, but I don't recommend this method. But you can do this, okay, just for the sake of comparison. But another method which is more accurate is the cutout method. Okay, so for example, this is your rocket body. Okay, but you do a cutout profile of this rocket, a two-dimensional cutout from the cardboard, and then you try to balance this cutout profile, okay, on this edge lah. Okay, so you try to vary the location until the balance cutout profile, the cutout profile is balanced. So the point at which this cutout is located on the edge is the center of pressure. Center of pressure. So you can compare this center of pressure. You measure from the tail section or the nose cone, okay, and compare it with the open rocket data and see if there is a significant difference between the two lah. Okay, so and report this in your report lah. Okay, the last section. Okay, others. Okay, we are about to end our session. This is something that we have been struggling in our early research. Okay, in terms of the ignition, how to obtain a reliable ignition. Okay, we have to consider KN lah. Okay, if you want to further your study in the rocket motor design, okay, you will encounter these terms KN, Kelmang number. So basically, when we design the rocket motor, we have to ensure that the motor will produce reliable ignition. So I show you a video, an example of our own experience where the rocket is the ignition is not reliable lah. Okay, we call this chaffing lah. Okay. Okay, so what you see in the video is basically the rocket the propellant start to ignite. Okay, but due to the poor design, okay, the flame is off. Okay, due to the high velocity. Okay, the flame is shut off, and then due to the residual heat in the combustion chamber, the propellant is reignited, and then it shut off again and reignited. So that phenomena we call chafing lah. Okay, so these are the some of the variables that we have to consider when we design the rocket motor lah. Okay. Another thing is the grain geometry. Okay. Whether it's so in terms of the solid propellant grain, the production, how we produce it, whether it's freestanding or we cast it. Okay, whether it's double base or composite. Okay, in terms of geometry, we have end burning, we have tubular, multi-tubular, star, and so on. Okay, so when we decide, okay, which one we are going to use, okay, we have to consider the performance, the fabrication, the assembly, the cost, the maintenance, and so on. Okay, so DFMA, designed for manufacturing and assembly. Okay, and the geometry of the grain will of course affect the thrust time curve. Okay, we have this progressive curve. So if you choose this, is like more is a constant. Okay, we have a it's a downward trend. Okay, so depends on the requirement of your mission profile. Okay, so you have regressive, natural, and progressive trend. Okay, I think that's all for me. It's almost 1 hour. And if you have any question, please you can ask. If no question, then I pass back to Farah.
Dr. Hussein, I have a
Ah,
question.
yes. Oh, yes.
Zafri here from Uniten.
Yeah. Okay.
Will the design rocket, do they have to design it for it to be reusable? That means, because there's also a parachute. So once you launch, recover the rocket, and can we reuse it afterwards?
Basically, you can reuse the body, the nose cone, everything except for the motor lah. The motor is not reusable. Usually, because it's made of PVC, so it will slightly deform or even melt. So the motor itself is not reusable, but we can reuse the nozzle and the bulkhead part. We can reuse because it's made of stainless steel. But the body of the motor itself is made of PVC, so it's usually it will deform lah. Mm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the question. So to conclude before we end, to conclude, basically each team has the flexibility to design these three components, the nose cone, the fin, and the body. Okay. Any other question?
Ada soalan dekat chat box.
Oh, ada. Okay. Will the motor engine yes, okay. The engine, the motor will be provided. So we are going to provide the dimensions later on, so that when you design the body and the casing of the rocket motor, so you have to ensure that the motor will fit into your casing. Okay. So but the dimensions will be provided later. So to improve the assembly process, based on our previous experience, we might provide you with the detailed dimension as well as the maybe the CAD drawing lah, so that you can import this, not the CAD drawing, the Open Rocket Motor file, so that you can import this into your Open Rocket file, so that to ensure that it will fit perfectly into your body lah. Hmm. Is there any other question? All right, if they have a further question, do they have any platform to ask?
You guys can ask on our social media at Hamburg Malaysia or Instagram and Facebook. We will answer as soon as possible. Oh, there's questions. Is the motor is produced locally?
Or from okay. The motor is produced locally in our lab. So if you join the competition, inshallah, so we have a physical face-to-face session at our lab. So you can visit our lab and we'll show you how basically how we manufacture the motor lah. Okay. So usually it involves with raw material preparation and casting process. Okay. And so on. So it's 100% local made. Are there any restriction regarding design? Yes, there is a restriction, as I mentioned, in terms of dimension, uh, especially the rocket body diameter, because we want to ensure that your chosen diameter must fit the motor lah. If you choose a body that is too thin, too small, it won't fit our rocket motor. So yes, there's some restriction. But other than that, in terms of the fin, nose cone, another restriction is the material. I forgot to mention. Make sure that your fin and nose cone body is made of either plastic or cardboard. So any hard material, steel, aluminium is not allowed. Okay, for safety reason lah. Okay, no problem. Is there a chance for the rocket to explode? Yes. Okay, there is always a chance, but we have improved the design from the previous year. Okay, we increased the safety margin of the rocket. Okay, to reduce the chances of explosion. Or in the rocketry we call it catastrophic. So there are a few things that we have to consider. One is the erosive burning. Okay, erosive burning. So we have to ensure that when we design the core of the propellant, okay, the diameter must be sufficiently large to ensure that there is no erosive burning. If you have erosive burning within the chamber, then there's a possibility of the rocket to explode. Okay, other than that, we also have to consider the aspect ratio of the propellant lah. Okay, aspect ratio of the propellant, and of course, the most important is during the casting process. Okay, we have to ensure that there is no trapped air or bubbles within the propellant lah. Otherwise, it will increase the burning area and it will quickly develop to a high pressure combustion and eventually to the explosion lah. Okay, of course we don't want to have any explosion, but Alhamdulillah, last year competition we launched more than 40 rockets and all of them it does not explode. So we hope we can continue that record. If in the worst case scenario the rocket motor explode, inshallah, we have to ensure that any personnel will not reside within the safety punya radius lah. So we follow the NAR standard, the National Association of Rocketry. For class I rocket motor, there's a minimum safety distance for each personnel to be within the rocket motor lah. Okay.
Tusen, just to know what is that minimum distance, if you can share, if you don't mind.
Sure. I don't have the figure in my mind right now. I forgot, but I think it's around. Let me open the file. We will provide the safety briefing during the session, but let me check. There is a table lah. There is a table from NAR. I think it's around how many feet, or maybe later I will share, Doctor.
No problem.
Yeah.
It depends on the
class of the motor, the thrust,
I see.
the total impulse. Yeah.
On the material is styrofoam considered plastic?
Any soft material is like not a hard material like steel.
Kayu?
Yeah, kayu also can.
Oh, okay.
Tapi it's heavier lah kan.
Yeah. Well, there are some light kind of wood.
Yeah. Is that like balsa wood, soft wood?
Yes.
It's very light. Okay. I found the file safety plan. You still can see my screen, right? I'm
Yes,
opening
can.
this words file. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Doctor.
Okay. So I will brief this later. This is the 2023. So the pre-launching, this one, the minimum distance. So for class I is 50 feet. Personal distance is 100 feet. 100 feet. So this is the exact location. Okay. So this is the 1 kilometer radius, about 1 kilometer radius. So free of any buildings, any type of residence. But the personal distance minimum is 100 feet. Okay. And so the launch site will be here. And this is the tents for the spectators. Okay. And this is the entrance. So we have sky watchers, okay, to warn if the rocket is fly beyond the 20-degree cone, as I mentioned. So the sky watchers will warn everybody to make sure you can see the rocket where is going downward. Okay. So yep. Of course, we put the safety as our priority, okay. We don't want any incidents. Otherwise, maybe this is the last time we will organize this competition. But if you guys have any input on how can we further improve our safety, our design, we welcome all the inputs. Aluminum foil is also prohibited. For what? Aluminum foil, is it for the body parts or what? Aluminum foil is a very thin foil. Uh, I'm not sure what you want to use it for. But as long as it's a body part skin, yes, can. You want to wrap the body part with the aluminum foil? I think no problem. Okay. Any other question? Okay, if you have further question, maybe you don't have any question right now, but if you have later you have questions, I think you can follow our IG, our Facebook, and you can ask. I think once we have registered, we have finalized the participants, we will form a WhatsApp group and you can ask in the WhatsApp now. Okay, but since I think the registration is still open, right, Farah?
Yeah, it's open until end of May.
End of May. Can you
Yeah.
provide the link, registration link in the chat box, maybe?
All right.
Okay. So if you guys are interested in joining the competition, okay, just click on the link, okay, registration link, and please follow our social media, HEMREL, HEMREL. So HEMREL stands for High Energy Material Research Laboratory. Okay. So we wait for the link in the chat box. Okay, so that's the Google form lah. Okay, you can save the link, okay, and share with your colleagues, okay. Okay, if there's no other question, then I think I will end there. I think I pass back to Farah.
All right. I've also shared the attendance for today. We will be giving you guys the e-certificate for today's sessions. If you guys doesn't have any questions, that bring us to the ends of our sessions. Thank you for your times and see you guys in the next online sessions, inshallah on 17th May. Yeah, thank you everyone for your time.
Okay, bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.